Everybody, this is the Opinion Guy. I am Charles Guarria, broadcasting just minutes away from the world's most famous beach, Daytona Beach in Daytona Beach, Florida, where we just wrapped up Rockville, the world's North America's largest rock festival. Just finished. The last few notes were played yesterday afternoon. I don't know how many people went, but it's usually about 160,000 or so that come to that event. And we are going to kick it off there in just a few minutes. Just want to let you know that we do have a rock band coming on this week, Fire and Ice. I've never heard their music. I think they're rock and roll. And they will be on this Wednesday at 7 p.m. Baseball tomorrow night. And then Orlando Cepeda's son on Thursday, also at 7 p.m. We got lots of baseball, rock and roll, and we got a lot of news this evening, including conspiracy theories. I quickly changed my mind, and I'm acquiescing to the idea that the Democrats have some sort of conspiracy going on. And Michael's going to tell us about that. And it has to do with the hantavirus. And if you're on that boat, just jump the hell off and swim ashore. No, I'm just kidding. All righty. Without further ado, we got a full show tonight. I'm so excited. All four of us are here. So I'm going to introduce our Democrat, because he's been away, Mr. John Navarra. Hey, John,
Hello.
What's going on?
Not too much. Yeah.
All right. What's up, Michael?
Hey. Hello, everybody.
And then Joe Hannoush. What's going on, Joe?
Hello. Hello, everybody.
All right. All righty. So, Rockville. Michael, I know you like music. Do you guys get news about Welcome to Rockville up in the New York area?
No.
Okay, Welcome to Rockville. For all the New York folks who are tuning in this evening, it is the largest rock festival in North America, and it attracts like 165,000. Wondering, Joe or John, did either of you go? Oh, it's at the racetrack here in Daytona Beach, the same one that has, the Daytona 500 and the one that goes 24/7 and all that kind of stuff. So, Joe or John, did either of you go this year?
I did not attend. The music is Navarra. I'm from the 80s. No.
You want to say it again?
I'm into the 60s, the 80s. Not really the 60s and the 80s. I'm into that music. Not really the 70s, but the Rockville. It's more recent and stuff. I'm not really into that music, but it seems like people had a good time though.
Yeah, it's an awesome event. I've been there a few times. Joe, have you ever gone?
I've not gone. I have an ear issue, and I went to a lot of concerts in my youth. And I'm trying to keep whatever little hearing I have left.
All right. Yeah. That's. I'm sorry to hear that. Yeah, I've gone to so many concerts in my life. I'm sure I have damage to my eardrums. Mike, what's the last concert you saw?
Pink Floyd, 88.
Nice.
So there you go. I'm not a concert guy.
Yeah, it's awesome. I was talking to somebody about Pink Floyd recently.
That was me.
Telling them how great they were. Was that you?
That was me. Telling you about the Animals album.
Yeah. Oh,
I think we talked about that last week. Yeah.
Yeah, that was me.
Oh, see that? It all just melts together for me, man. Yeah. Look, I love seeing all four boxes like this. This is so cool.
Yeah.
And I think we all have our colors on too. I don't know. I can't tell very well, but I think John's wearing a shade of blue.
Yeah, I had my
red there.
Harry Truman at Key West.
Oh, wow. Okay. How about that?
And they said Trump actually got married there one of his times.
One of his times. He's been married like what, 3 times?
I think it was 3.
So.
Yeah. Well, there's all kinds of news, folks, that we're going to go over this week. And I really wanted to start out with some interesting news that I had come across from Miss Kathy Hochul. Miss Kathy Hochul,
joyous,
on X and probably other places, answered questions. The most Googled questions he answered. I know, right? Exactly. It's like a setup. That's what I was thinking, right? This is a setup. They probably so anyway. It went for like 2 minutes and 43 seconds, and I was like, I watched like 30 or 40 seconds of it just to see what was going on. And you can see the questions, the mamby-pamby, where is the governor from?
Not one of those questions is a question anyone in New York wants to know about Kathy Hochul. No one gives a damn. Not one of those questions.
Yeah, it's all kind of goofy stuff. So I had the great idea of having Chat GPT play the role of Kathy Hochul, and Mike, you get to ask a question as if you were in a press conference with Miss Hochul. You ask the question. I'm going to put it into Chat GPT. We'll see what it spits back. I actually practiced this, so it does actually respond as if it's her.
Well, I'm glad you practiced. I'm running the question in my head now, trying to figure out what I would ask.
Yeah, so I'll type it in, and then we'll see the answer, and we'll see whether or not we agree with what Kathy Hochul says. Because she's not going to come on my show, but we can actually bring her on the show via Chat GPT. So if you were at a press conference, what would be the one question, Michael, you would like to ask her?
It would very much depend on the press conference, but I suppose we could start with. All right, let's start with ICE. So I'd ask Kathy Hochul, why does she want to reward illegal aliens when the result of that is higher crime, higher fraud, higher cost to New Yorkers, rather than working with ICE to deport them as voters requested in 2024?
Okay, higher crime, higher cost, rather than
working with the Trump administration and ICE to deport them as voters wanted. 77 million voters wanted.
Didn't Kathy Hochul win by a huge percentage for governor
in 2022?
Okay, so it doesn't matter anymore if it was 4 years ago as opposed to 2 years ago. Okay.
What
the voters wanted. You cited the voters wanting.
In 2024, the mass deportation, 77 million people agreed with Donald Trump to mass deport. And to this day, the majority of Americans, most recent poll you can pull up is at least 51% of Americans want to mass deport illegal aliens. That is standard, every poll since 2024, consistent. That's what Americans want. People may not like that. Some people don't like it, but that is what people want, and that is the law.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is share the screen so you guys can see this, and we'll see what the response to the question is, because we have a version, thanks to AI, of Kathy Hochul with us. So let me go in and share the screen so you guys can see this, and the audience out there can see it.
See it, by the way.
Yeah, I haven't brought it up yet. Hold on one second.
All right.
There it is, Chat GPT. We'll share. So I wrote, how would New York State Governor Kathy Hochul, got to put that in there. Kathy Hochul, respond to this question. Why do you want to reward illegal aliens when it results in higher crime, higher costs, rather than working with the Trump administration and ICE to deport them? All right, well, let's see what Kathy Hochul has to say about that. Oh, she would likely reject the premise of the question and respond along these lines. I do not support rewarding anyone who commits crimes, regardless of immigration status. Public safety is my top priority. New York cooperates with federal authorities in criminal investigations and in cases involving violent offenders, but I will not support mass deportation policies that target families, workers, students, or people without criminal records while bypassing constitutional protections. Okay, we'll just go at the top there. Michael, what's your response to Kathy Hochul when she says something like that? The fake Kathy Hochul.
Well, the answer, of course, is but every illegal alien is a criminal, having violated the Constitution and United States law. And as a governor whose responsibility, whose oath and purpose is to protect, not to protect, to enforce the laws of this state and to provide the best environment for the people of this state, how can she justify this direct violation of federal law?
All
Because it's
righty.
unconstitutional, like you said.
What?
Because it's unconstitutional, like you said.
No,
And
it's
by
not.
the way,
No, it's
someone
not.
is
It's in the Constitution. That's not true.
Someone is not deemed illegal unless there has been some prosecution happening. And
That
I
is
don't believe
not
that's
true.
been going on.
That is not true. That is not true. That is not, look it up in the Constitution. That is not correct. That is not true. Anyone who enters into the United States without authorization and permission is an illegal alien, like they are in every country on the face of the earth. Every country has laws on immigration and illegal immigration. And it is a fact. It is a crime. It is a statute for the United States. It is absolutely incorrect to say that you need prosecution for that. They are a criminal by definition.
Okay, let's bring John into the
Thank you,
conversation.
Taylor.
Okay. Well, I would say
yeah,
that
let's bring John into the
true that the people in illegally are breaking the law. I mean, that is true. I have heard some Republicans, though, that have said that the amount of people that are in that it wouldn't be possible to kick all of those people out of the country, and that there could be as a possibility that there could be I know you probably hate the word amnesty, but Ronald Reagan did it, and people that have been living here for 20 or more years, something like that, would be able to pay a fine and get a pathway to citizenship or some other way of having legal status.
So you want to reward them?
Point, because I don't really think that all of the people are really going to be leaving the country, the full amount of the people that are here. And I think that we will have legislation that will be some sort of compromise. But we'll see.
I'm going to bring it back.
Very wrong, but I could.
That is
I'm going to bring
wrong.
Hold on, folks. That's not really where I wanted the conversation to go. I want to focus on what ChatGPT is saying about Kathy Hochul's response to Mike's question. And the part that really jumps out at me in that first paragraph, because I don't want to go through the whole thing there, but the first paragraph is, I will not support mass deportation policies that target families, workers, students, or people without criminal records while bypassing constitutional protections. So that jumped out at me, and this time I'll go to you, Joe. Do illegal immigrants have constitutional protections? And we'll go round robin on that question.
First of all, there's no such thing as illegal immigrants because there's no constitutional law to prohibit that. But if we are pretending, as Mike loves to do, that there are such things as illegal immigrants, there must be due process for that to determine guilt or innocence or whatever. So I don't remember those trials happening. So no.
Okay. So Mike.
Yep.
Will illegal immigrants have constitutional protections?
No.
So the fake Kathy Hochul.
I believe the statutes that, and I just did a quick double check here. So I believe the statutes in hand are 8 USC 1325, 8 USC 1326, 8 USC 24 in reference to illegal aliens entering into the United States. It is a fact. It is in our Constitution. It is part of the articles. I believe it's Article 3, Section 2, although I'm doing that off the top of my head, so I could be wrong. They are absolutely criminals. They are absolutely a burden to the American people. They absolutely have no rights, anything that we give them is a reward for their criminality, which would include amnesty, which would include healthcare funding, a penny. It is absolutely abhorrent. Ronald Reagan was wrong. We see that as the result, because the goal at that time was we do it one time and that will seal, that's end of the problem. We won't do it again because we want to end this. It only perpetuated it and magnified it. That's why we have so many who have come in since, hoping for Democrats to come in and to violate everything about the United States to get that reward. They're just hoping to stay here long enough so that when Democrats get desperate enough and Republicans are afraid of losing elections enough, that they will then give them that amnesty. The Democrats are hoping that once they get it, they will then be able to vote in elections that will support. They will owe the Democrats, knowing full well that many Republicans like myself, if we have any kind of power, will get rid of them. And therefore, they will vote Democrat forever, which would be enough votes. The 8 million that came into, and some say it's as many as 12, the 8 million extra illegal aliens that came in under the Biden administration, which brought us to about 30 to 40 million illegal aliens in this nation, are more than enough. Just the 8 million are more than enough to change every presidential and many local and state level elections to eternally guarantee that Democrats would have power. That's why they want this. That's what this is all about at the end of the day. It's not because they like illegals. It's not because it's beneficial to any damn body. It's because of politics and political power. And it is sad that we would ever consider rewarding this criminality.
So John,
Yeah.
are illegal immigrants? Is she right? Is a fake Kathy Hochul right in saying that she would not support mass deportation policies that target families, workers? Are illegal immigrants protected under the Constitution?
Okay. What you do is, Mike might be missing this. What if I was caught up in an ICE raid and I was born in Brooklyn and my father was born in Brooklyn? Okay. So I'm 2 generations American. What if I'm accused of being an illegal alien? I have the right to go to court and prove that I am a U.S. citizen. I show my birth, which is right here, actually. I do have it over here. Yes, I have it right here. Here is my birth certificate, state of New York. Okay. Born in Brooklyn, my birth certificate. And so with my birth certificate, it gives me citizenship. But the thing is, if I'm picked up in a raid, then I could be kicked out of the country. The thing is, I have a right to go to a court and prove with my birth certificate that I am a U.S. citizen and therefore I am protected. So you have to prove that you have to have the right to prove that you're a U.S. citizen. It's constitutional, because otherwise I just could be kicked out arbitrarily. And what good is that?
John,
what is the Constitution worth for me?
John, and that is the fear-mongering premise, which is non-existent, doesn't happen, isn't real.
It does.
No, it doesn't. We've had, if it did, CNN, MSNBC, CNN, ABC, the entire mainstream news media would be blasting it all over. This would be the only thing that Democrats would be talking about in the 2026 midterm elections so that they could win. It isn't real. It doesn't happen. People have been detained. That is true. And those people have proven their citizenship, and they were not deported from the United States. That's a fact. So yes, you can be detained, but then again, you could be detained for 1,001 different things. Being detained is not a crime. It is not a criminal action. It doesn't result in you being deported. They do verify whether they have American citizens or they have illegal aliens. It is not that hard to prove that you're an American citizen if you are. And that is the fact. To say that, well, it could happen. You know what? I could be hit by three times. I could get hit 3 times by lightning while getting hit by a bus while I'm smoking crack. Is it likely? No, but it's probable, because mathematically, if it happened, it's not real. That is fear mongering that helps to get votes and sympathy for criminals who should not be in our country. By the way, folks, just in case you're wondering, I am passionate about that issue. I am not upset with John or Joe saying that they have a disagreement in this. This is just my passion on this issue.
What about this?
Good. Good, John.
You go to a foreign country, depends on the country, but you go to a foreign country, and do you have any rights if you are a victim of a crime? Do you have the right to prosecute someone? Do you have the right, just like in the United States, do people who visit our country and they're here legally as a visitor, legally, they have a passport, they came in temporarily. Do they have any constitutional rights in our country? I believe they do. That they, not the protection to be here permanently, that's not allowed, but they do have some sort of protections, and the court system could work for them if they're a victim of a crime.
Well, yes, but that's a very, very different circumstance.
I don't believe that. Hold on.
Yeah.
Michael, I have something to say. Mike, I have something to say. I don't believe that illegal immigrants, I call them illegal immigrants. I know, Joe, you have a difference of opinion. John, I'm not sure where they are. If somebody comes here illegally, they're illegal immigrants. And they don't have constitutional rights because they're not citizens. And when I hear people say they have constitutional rights, it kind of blows my mind. All of us have constitutional rights because we're citizens of the United States of America. If you're not a citizen of the United States of America, you don't have constitutional rights. That's not the way it's supposed to work. So I am kind of curious, Joe, where you are saying that the Constitution holds water here. If they're illegal, they're not citizens of the United States of America. They are aliens.
And I will cite that right now.
Yeah,
right,
can you explain that? Because I'm kind of like, confuses me.
All right, this is per Michael's citation he mentioned earlier, Article 3, Section 2, the last paragraph of that section, the trial of all crimes except in cases of impeachment shall be by jury. I don't remember that happening for all the crimes of immigration.
Mike, I'm going to ask you. Do you think that all right, hold on. Let me just pose this question while it's in my mind. Michael, do you think that the founders meant citizens based on what Joe just said, all trials, did they or did they not mean all trials of citizens of the United States of America?
Illegal aliens do not require a trial in terms of a trial like you or me getting accused of a crime. They have a different jurisdiction, which has been confirmed by the Supreme Court. It has been confirmed by every presidency. They have a different process, which is under the executive branch, which is for the deportation of illegal persons in the United States, illegal aliens. It is entirely and totally separate. Walking onto the ground of the United States does not convey the rights of a citizen of the United States. Rights are not universal because you walk into America. Just as if I go to Russia or to England or to Canada, I am not conveyed and instantly imbued with all rights. To answer John's question, do people who come here legally, and even some illegal aliens, are they conveyed certain privileges while they are here, which includes the privilege to be protected and or to seek remedy if a crime is done against them. That is a privilege we extend to them. We don't have to, but that is a privilege that is reciprocal with their country, so that if you go and, like Ketanji Brown Jackson came up with, if you go to Japan and you commit a crime in Japan, you will be tried under Japanese law. It's reciprocal, but you won't become, unlike Ketanji Brown Jackson, the Supreme Court justice who is an activist and doesn't know the legal system, you don't suddenly become a citizen of Japan. Same thing here in the United States. You don't become a citizen just because you have had the privilege of being encompassed by the umbrella of our legal system under certain circumstances. They are not the same. They never will be. They never were. They never will be.
John, how do you feel about it?
But you do have this, because I mean, unless I'm really off task, I do teach, constitutional law with my AP government class. And the thing is, unless I'm really, really wrong, that people who come into the country, they don't have the right to stay. They don't have that right. They only have the right to stay as long as the laws say they can stay. But the thing is, they do have a First Amendment right. They do have the other amendment rights, at least, if not all, most, as any. And you might have that too if you go to another country. If you go to France, you probably have the First Amendment right to say, I got off here. You're not supposed to go to jail for that. So there are rights that people have when they come here. I think the Supreme Court has been pretty clear on that. It's not a right to stay. It's not a right that you're a citizen. But the thing is, you have a right against cruel and unusual punishment, I would believe, if you were arrested, that other people who come from other countries have a right against that. Now, Joe may have an opinion. I don't know if you want to weigh in, but that's okay. Unless I'm really wrong, that's what I believe, that they do have the rights.
John, I got a question for you. Do they do the rights that the courts have decided they have? Does that include mass deportation? Because that's what fake Kathy Hochul was saying, that all these people that come across the border can't be mass deported. John, what do you say?
Oh, they can be deported, yes, but that's not one of their rights to stay here.
Okay, so how about, and Joe, you're saying the Constitution
can be kicked out.
Joe, to clarify, you're saying that the Constitution means that you're saying that you're siding with Hochul on that it would be that they're constitutionally protected from mass deportation. The fake Kathy Hochul, that they're Joe, you're saying that they are.
Yeah, there's no provision in the Constitution which gives the federal government authority to restrict immigration. Therefore, any law on immigration by the government is unconstitutional. So, Kathy Hochul is correct.
So you're saying, you're for open borders?
I'm not for open borders. I'm saying the Constitution is.
But you're strict. Hold on, Joe. Mike.
I believe in the Ellis Island model for borders. Okay. So I'm actually against the Constitution. I want more immigration restrictions by government than the Constitution allows.
Okay. Now, Mike, would you go for Michael? Would you go for an Ellis Island type of situation?
I've heard several ideas, including from my good friend, to be fair, my good friend Larry Sharp, who's running for governor of New York, a libertarian. He has a Ellis Island style, a privatized Ellis Island entry point into America. If there is a legal ordered system to allow individuals to come into America, I'm perfectly fine. I'm not against immigration. I am against illegal immigration. 100%. And I am against rewarding the criminals that broke our law and have resisted being accountable to the laws that they have broken. They do not deserve any reward. And doing the things that have been suggested by Kathy Hochul and most of the Democratic Party are rewards, especially amnesty. No, they don't get that. You want to come in through LSI, you want to have a private or public Ellis Island, you want to have a different program, you want to change the law on who can come into America, fantastic, knock yourself out. If it's a good policy, I'll support it. But if you're talking about illegal criminals, absolutely not.
So, John, are you aware of the Ellis Island approach, like that we're talking about? Have you heard that phrase before?
I've heard something about it, but no, I don't understand what you're talking about fully. Okay, and I can't really judge it unless I fully understand it.
Okay, Joe, as the libertarian on the panel, and of course, Larry Sharp's libertarian, and he pushes the Ellis Island approach. I've heard it a lot on his show. Can you explain to John and the rest of the audience who has not heard that, what it is exactly? And I'd like to hear John's response to it.
Yeah. First of all, the libertarian philosophy wants government to have nothing to do with immigration at all. It would be basically property rights. And if you own your property and you invite someone onto it, then whether it's your country or whatever, that's your property. The government has nothing at all to do with it. That's the libertarian stance. My stance is not libertarian. Mine is Ellis Island. Now, what that is, to answer your question, is we had an Ellis Island here, like literally Ellis Island, right? It's a place. And it would be a place where a checkpoint, really, where immigrants, like from wherever, Italy, England, Germany, whatever, would come to the United States. They want to immigrate here. They want to live here. They want to work, whatever. They would go to Ellis Island. They would check in. As long as their health is not, like, if they don't have any obvious health issues. And there's one more thing. I forget what it is.
They had to be able to sustain themselves.
Yeah, I believe that was the other provision. Yeah, so they're on their own. There's no like welfare or anything with that. Then they come on in. You check your boxes. You're in. They document your name. I think they document relatives that may be here. I'm not 100% sure on that. But then they would come in like that. That's it.
Right.
Okay, we'll have a nice life in the land of opportunity and achieving the American dream. And that's
okay,
it.
John.
That's
Before we
the
respond,
story.
John, before you respond to that, we do have a worldwide audience. I was just looking the other day, and Mexico and South America, South Africa are two of the biggest. Canada even beats out the U.S. So for folks around the world who don't know, and those in their 20s who don't know, Ellis Island is in New York Harbor, right next to the Statue of Liberty. And folks used to come in through there. You can go there now as a tourist. It really is fascinating. And it really was a very loose check compared to what we do now. Like when people come across, they would pinch their kids' cheeks to make them red so they looked healthy when they got inspected by the American inspector. And they also would change names, Joe. I don't know if you're aware of that. Like
Yes.
our last name is really Guarria, but when they got to Ellis Island, they changed, whoever that person was, changed it to IA. So there are names, which of course we would never do that now, and that was totally wrong. So that's just a little background. So John, knowing what this Ellis Island approach is there something else you want to add, Joe?
I just wanted to add, like in today's modern society, we have databases to check for background checks. I would include that in my policies.
Okay, that reminds me. I think part of Larry Sharp's plan is to have headhunter firms actually do the work of vetting people. Now, I take it one step further, and then John, I swear I'm going to get to you. I take it one step further. I would want headhunt. I don't want the government to stop doing it. I want the headhunters to join, because we're about, both Democrats and Republicans say we're like a good 2 to 3 years behind the backlog of processing legally. So don't take out, even if they're slow as molasses, because the government sucks at everything that they do except kill people. We should still have them doing that, because it's at least getting some through, while you get the professional headhunting firms that can kind of speed through and actually have to adhere to results like the government doesn't. But at least the government's doing something. So hearing all that, John, would you be in favor of an Ellis Island approach to help solve the illegal immigration problem?
Okay. What I think would be appropriate would be that we do need a way to vet the people coming in for national security, that is perfectly appropriate. And that's what we should do. So the people should be vetted. I think that they should have a citizenship test and even possibly a language test in order to get in. And I think that we have to maybe have some kind of control on the numbers coming in, because we as a country should, monitor and see how many people are coming in, as much as we would, in a theoretical world, allow everyone in. You really can't do that. And so I think that would be proper, that you could, have a Congress or whoever say on the numbers, have a citizenship test, maybe a language test, and also a national security test. And I think that would be a fair way of allowing people to be able to come in, where we don't have that big backlog. But it does take a while to vet people, and you can't rush that.
18 to 24 months.
Yeah, it is a long process. It's 18 to 24 months, right? It is a long process.
All right.
So, which I think actually hurt. I think having 18 to 24 months is one of the reasons illegal immigration is as big as it is, because if you're desperate to get away from whatever the situation is in the country that you're coming from, and you could either go illegally and escape that horrible situation or stay there for 18 to 24 months, what are you going to do? We're kind of forcing them to be illegal. We're forcing them to be criminals because we're not good enough to get people through the border, which is why the headhunting part of Larry's idea is really good, because it adds a business to it, and businesses always do things better than the government does. And we probably get more people through, less immigration. That means the people who are trying to get in illegally are really criminals, and we can stop them and send them back.
Shoot them on sight.
Well, we shouldn't do that.
Don't tempt me. But remember, guys, there's something that's unsaid in the arguments for these illegal aliens, these criminals. We have no obligation to accept them. There is nothing that requires us to open our borders, open our doors, and allow them into our country. We have the right to pick and choose who can come into our country and how many and from where. And we have rules on all of that. But we have just because they show up, we have no obligation to accept them. And there's a big difference through the Ellis Island program, which is a legal system to come in, which we may or may not agree with. And I can work with that. But what we're talking about, what the problem is illegal. And we see the media often mix the two terms. They are not interchangeable. They are not the same. There is a massive difference. Illegal should have no rights and get no rewards. Legal, again, I got no problem. You legally come into the country. We want you to be here. You want to be here. Fantastic. We can work with that. Illegal is entirely different. And that is the problem. That is the source of the problem. That's why Americans are dying that are unnecessary to die. That's why we have New York City, Boston, Chicago, LA, Seattle, Boulder are all going bankrupt because of these illegal aliens. And they've said this all publicly. We're losing billions of dollars per city for these illegal aliens, which is a burden onto the American citizen. And we're providing them services that are taking away from services from American citizens. And now we want to give them a further reward by saying you can become an American citizen? Hell no.
Okay. All right, I'm going to take a pause here, and I just want to remind people that if you like this conversation, please like, comment, and share. If you like seeing the host of the show screw it up in the beginning like I did tonight, please like, comment, and share, because I really got off to a bad start, but you guys saved me. I appreciate that. And also subscribe. No matter what platform you're on watching this right now, hit the subscribe button so you know when this show goes live, which I can actually tell you is every day of the week. Now that I don't work for Hometown News, I am on every night of the week.
And also
almost every night of the week, unless I don't have a guest that evening. Like there's nobody on Friday. I'm probably not going to be on Friday. But when we are on Monday through Friday, 7 p.m. is the time. And John, who is running for Daytona Beach City Council, has agreed to debate the incumbent Monica Paris, and we'll see if Monica responds during tonight's show, and they will be one of the weeknight shows coming up. John is running for Daytona Beach City Commissioner in Zone 1. The incumbent is Monica Paris, and he and Monica have agreed to a debate on this show. We're settling on a date right now. I text her right before the show started. We'll talk about all things Daytona Beach. And of course, that affects the rest of the country. Our problems are your problems. Your problems are our problems, whether it's resiliency, homelessness, overdevelopment, particularly in places like Nevada can relate to that. Texas can relate to that. So definitely check into that. It'll be sometime in June. I'll give you the exact date when the time comes. And as a disclosure, I am friends with both of them. Just because John's on the show does not mean I'm going to have favoritism to him, because Monica and I have hung out at weddings together and at other places together. So I am friends with both, but I'm going to give them hell that night. You can guarantee it. Now we'll ask some tough questions and take audience questions as well. So I appreciate that. So, let me just get that media thing off the screen. And Michael brought up a good point about the expense of illegal immigrants. And I'm going to stick with that because the latest number that I heard is $80,000 New York City is spending on illegal immigrants. So is that a pretty accurate number, Michael?
Depends on who's counting exactly. But according to Mandami, most recently, it's about $5 billion. Under Adams, he was saying it's about $2 billion per year. Mandami is saying it's $5 billion. So your number's somewhere in between there.
Would you do like per person? Like would $5 billion be 80,000 or more?
5 billion divided by, well, the problem is how many illegal aliens. We know they counted, or they're counting at least 200. The number is at least 200,000 under the last 2 years of the Biden-Harris administration, not counting any other illegal aliens that are in New York City, which some estimates say could be as high as 1 to 2 million people. So it's very difficult to work out a per person cost because we don't have clear numbers, but it's in the ballpark of, as an example, when we had open borders under Biden and we were providing housing for them, we were spending somewhere around $65,000 per illegal alien in the 3-star hotels, plus giving them a credit card to buy food, clothing, and other items, which had $13,000 on it. Now, that was for a year, but it was $13,000. That works out to about $78,000 per person.
Okay. All right. I'm getting some numbers together here. Let's get a range. So you said 65. I just Googled the latest numbers for New York City are 81. Central Florida basically pays about $31,000 per year for each chronically homeless person living in the streets. So if we go, let's just go with that range of Central Florida, which is Volusia County, part of Volusia County, Central Florida, 31,000, and as high in New York is 81,000 and change. Why don't we? And Michael, I'm going to stick with you because on this, and then we'll go around the table. Why don't we just cut them a check? Why don't we just say, here's 31,000 in Central Florida. Here's 81,000 in New York City. Run with it. We'll see you next year. Why don't we do that?
We're talking about homeless or illegal aliens?
Homeless.
Okay, homeless. I'm sorry, homeless. But again, we don't know how many are homeless. But
I mixed those up. Sorry about that. Yeah,
that's all right. That's right. But again, still a huge number that we don't know is very clear. Somewhere 50, 100,000. It's not clear. It is growing. We do know that part. So yes, it's 81,000 in New York State. It would be, most of that money is going to paperwork, bureaucratic paperwork. Okay, Mondami's giving it to his staffer gives it to another staffer, gives it to another staffer, and the money is whittling its way down, a large chunk of it going to social workers. Money's not reaching the homeless. Literally, they could buy houses for each and every one of them, and we'd save money. You know, they go to Kansas, and they'd all be able to have 1,000 square foot homes, and we'd save money. They $30,000 each because they buy houses for $50,000. We can't just give it to them because many people have mental issues. Many people have drug issues. They'll wind up overdosing. But this should, because it's so obvious that there's nothing but waste happening here because New York State is controlled by Democrats, we need to revamp the entire system and start from, and I would suggest, tiny homes. We buy a bunch of tiny homes, put them in parks, a couple of parks, and we give the key, okay, we're helping you, you're homeless, we're going to help you. This is your house. And if people don't know, tiny homes are like having, it's basically like a camper van, a camper. It's not that big, but it's got all the amenities you would need. It's got a stove, it's got a shower, it's got a bed, it's got a door with a lock, heating. And basically, that would be their property until they can do something else with their life. Paid for by the city. It would cost us, the average tiny home costs about $15,000. We could easily buy huge amounts of them and provide that. And that would be the stepstone to returning back into society for these people. They'd have their own private home. They'd be able to turn around their lives. I think that's the better way to do it.
I love the tiny homes idea. It's something that was bandied about here and for the Daytona Beach City Commission, and I spoke to one of the big players trying to get a contract with them, and he's basically said they're all talk, no action. So that's unfortunate, because I think tiny homes is a part of the solution, and even for the workforce such as police and fire, who in their initial stages of their careers can't really afford much. I think it's a great idea for folks like that. Okay, so you brought up a good point, and that is like the mentally ill couldn't handle their money, mentally disabled couldn't handle their money. So we'll put that into the equation. And John, I'm going to ask you, would you be just in favor of like cutting a check and kind of getting rid of all this bloated government that handles, like Michael just said, the paperwork that gets pushed around, and just saying like Central Florida is 31,000 to everybody who's mentally capable? Here's 31,000. See you next year. Would you be in favor of that, John?
No, I think that Michael's idea is actually on the right track, because just cutting a check doesn't really do it. What you need to do is get some sustained living. And so you do need to provide some kind of housing, getting themselves able to function, and also having a place to live, and being able to have employment. Now the problem is renting an apartment is like $2,000 a month here, and how many people, even working people, can afford that in our community? So that's a big difficulty that actually adds to the homelessness. But I think cutting a check alone is not really the pathway. It's getting the pathway for the future, getting a path that's going to be good for the people 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road. And you do need housing. You do need work training. But if someone is able to get a place to live and they're able to work, then that's a great step in the right direction. Just a check wouldn't be the right method. It's getting
so Joe, I'm
them
going to
in a place and getting them on a path with a job.
Okay, so Joe, I'm going to add more to the question as it comes to you now, and that is the mental part. The mentally disabled shouldn't get a check. So we add that, and then we add in training so they could sustain themselves. So if they're able to hold down a job, if they're able to take care of themselves, they're not mentally disabled. Would you then be in favor of cutting a check and just getting rid of the rest of the government involvement in homeless?
No, not at all. I think that might help maybe 5% of them. The other probably 70%, it makes their situation worse. And the remaining like 25% probably doesn't make much of a difference at all. Just extends, just delays the problem. That's it. Problem comes back later. Most of these people, not all, but most of these people, whether it was bad decision making or the incapability of making decisions, and that's where the handicap issue comes in, mental issues. They need help. They need someone to make decisions for them. Not just cut a check and then like, oh, you're on your own, you make your own decisions. So I would look at, first of all, if their issue is drugs, put them in rehab. Go to like an equivalent of AA, like just get off the drugs, detox, and sometimes that fixes the problem right there. Another issue is for some of them is they just had a bunch of bad financial things happen to them all at once. They were paycheck to paycheck, and they lost their job unexpectedly, had a big financial expense come up at the wrong time. Those people, you could almost give, I wouldn't do it, but you could almost just give them a check and they might be okay. But I would instead allocate those funds to get them back on their feet. Like, okay, let's pay for 3 months worth of an apartment or a tiny home. Like Michael said, I actually like that idea. Stealing an idea from Larry Sharp on that, though, is give them equity in it. Like, give them this, like, whatever. If you're going to give $30,000, buy a tiny home with that, and it's theirs at that point. Now you have a house paid off. And then they could, be home with take a shower, whatever, shave, wash their clothes, and then they could go out and look for a job and look like, presentable like the rest of us. If they're unable to make decisions for themselves, giving them money is makes things worse. They should go to a nonprofit like a church or some place and give them the money, and just got to take care of them for the rest of their lives, really, if they can't make decisions on their own.
So Michael, you were homeless twice, correct?
Yes. Yes.
Would you have taken the check if the government would have just handed you one?
Of course.
Moment in your life. Yeah.
Oh, now the reason why I was homeless was because of business deals. I was building a business. It failed, and I had put everything, and I mean everything I had at the time, into that business. I was living in the business itself. And when it failed, I lost everything that I had left. So that's what caused me to become homeless. And while I was out and homeless, there were many people who were from the Midwest that had come to California for a job, weren't able to get a job, became homeless. So they were out on the streets. Some of them were mentally ill. Some were drug addicts. There's a lot of reasons why people become homeless. Giving a check to someone like me within the first year of them being homeless, a lot of people can turn their life right around. And actually, that's the key goal, is you want to get them back into a normal system before they become, you can live with almost anything. Human beings, you can live in the North Pole if you have the right circumstances given enough time. You become accustomed to it. You got to break that cycle before it builds. So for people like you lost a job, you lost a business, it helps them. Give them the check. That's not the majority of people who are homeless. Most people who are homeless have been homeless 3 years or more. They're in a system. We have to break them out of that, which is why I say the tiny home idea. I don't know about the equity because we're paying for it. We get to keep it and reuse it. Well, no, I understand why you're saying it, Joe. But I'm saying, you have the tiny home. Once you get yourself back on your feet, you leave. And if someone else is homeless, now we have the tiny home for them to move into. So we can have that recurring. Because otherwise we never get a benefit. We never get a return on. We're just spending money on tiny homes forever. I'm not into that. I'd rather have the city or government own it, and we're willing to give it to them at little or no cost until they can get on their feet, so that we can then reuse that asset. So that's the way I would approach it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Okay. And an interesting point that John made, the average price of an apartment or a condo is $2,000. Doesn't sound like a lot. I know to folks in other parts of the country. But for context, it was just a little before COVID. So let's say 2018-ish, Donna had a 2-level condo, 2-floor condo, a 1.5 bath, and she was paying $800 a month. That same thing now is $2,000 plus. So that's how much prices have gone up here post COVID. A lot of it because, of course, of all the folks who moved down here. But prices really they've leveled off now, because sooner or later it has to level off to still be affordable. But a lot of people are feeling that it's not affordable. But I wanted to put that out there for context, so people understand how much it's gone up in the last few years. All righty. Thanks for that conversation.
If I could, Charles,
I
have a good context. And I think of it this way, okay? When I was a grocery clerk, I had a college degree, and I was a grocery clerk, and I was trying to become a teacher for 8 years, because it's really hard to become a teacher in the 1990s here. I went to interviews, and there were like 500 applicants per job, literally. Sometimes there were 32, sometimes there were 500. And to put it in context, I lived behind the Volusia Mall in a very good apartment complex. I liked where I lived. I was treated very well. And it was $405 a month. And I earned $9 an hour in 1999. So on a grocery clerk salary, I was able to live somewhere good, somewhere safe. And it wasn't great. It wasn't the Taj Mahal, but it was fine. I have no complaints because I actually liked it and didn't have to mow the lawn because they did it for me. But it was good. And of course, buying a house, like took my parents' house that I have now, and it was a good deal to go here. But the thing was, you can't do that now. You can't work as a grocery clerk on the salary of a grocery clerk and rent an apartment. You have to live with like 4 people and divide it 4 ways or something at least in order to live. So your quality of living here is a lot lower than it was, I think, about 20 years ago. I think that's a good way to put in context.
Yeah. I go to a minor league baseball game over here, the Daytona Tortugas, and the woman who serves you is actually a full-time teacher, and she needs to make money on the side to get by. So she works at the baseball games. And the first time I heard that, it kind of blew my mind. We were actually in a restaurant, and Don and I, and our server was a teacher. I was like, why would they teach if because it's hard to make it's as hard to make ends meet here as it is anywhere else. So lots of times you need 2 jobs. I mean, that's the unfortunate. And I always wonder where that's going to go, but that's a story for another day, I guess. Topic for another day. So Kamala Harris was in the news, sticking with something more on a national scene here, talking about she's still considering running. She hasn't said no, and she's still considering running, which led me to think about who are the presidential leaders of the pack for the Democrats, and who would you guys pick as the leader? So I am going to bring up the latest from a company called Polymarket. And if you don't know Polymarket, they are one of the most popular betting sites in the world. They're valued at about $9 billion. And this is their odds, like who's betting on each presidential candidate. In other words, Gavin Newsom, 24% bet on him, Kamala 9%, and all the way on down the line. And then there's a whole bunch of others at 2%. But after Bashar at 3%, I cut it off. So if you guys had to pick an early front runner, either from this group right here, who are leading the pack, according to Polymarkets, or somebody off the chart, let's start with you, Joe. Who would you pick as the leader of the pack for the Democrats going into the 2028 election?
Am I doing who I think the Democrats will pick, or am I doing who I would pick?
Oh, wow. That's a great question. Let's do both. Who would you pick, and who do you think the Democrats will pick?
I would not pick any of these people. I would pick, although it would be nice having an attractive looking president, so I might go with AOC. But other than that, come on, she's good looking. But
She is very good looking.
Other than that, I would go. There's a governor in Colorado who's libertarian leaning, Jared Polis. He's not great, but he's probably the least not great. So I would probably pick him if I could pick a Democrat.
All right.
But
And how about?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's it.
How about you, Mike? If out of this group here or anyone, who do you think has the inside track at the moment, and who would you pick if you had to pick one? I know it's a hard question for you, Michael.
Okay, so I think the better source. I know that's what people are betting on right now, but if you go to Real Clear Politics, they have the poll, what the polling data has shown, which is very different. Believe it or not, Kamala Harris, based on polling, is about 24%, and Gavin Newsom's at 18%.
All right.
And then everyone else is like single digits after that and almost non-existent. None of them deserve to be president. None of them are qualified to be president. They're all a bunch of jokes of really sick and twisted nature. I would burn all of them and pick somebody random on the street rather than have any of the Democrats that have offered to run, because their policies are antithetical to the quality of life of human beings, period, and Americans especially. But who do I think Democrats will pick?
Yes.
Because they have no real damn choice. They have no plan, no policy, the only thing they have is Orange Man bad. They will probably pick Kamala Harris, and with AOC being the VP, Gavin Newsom's going to have a hard fight with her on that. So that's going to be the three-way battle. It's going to wind up being Kamala because she's a woman. She might be black as an African American, or she's at least dark-skinned, and she was the former VP. They'll pick AOC because she's a woman, she's Hispanic, and she has a lot of young kids who have absolutely no clue about anything that think that she's smart, even though she is blatantly stupid. If you heard her comment about billionaires earning $1 billion or black people made America democratic, she's just a blithering idiot. I don't know how she got a degree. And that's who they'll probably go with, because women, color, and Democrats love to have race and sex as if it were actually qualifications for anything. That's what I think they would do.
So I got a quick question. Is Michael saying that that he would burn all of them worse than me saying I want to kill the president, like I said last week?
I wasn't going to mention that, but I'm glad, Charles, since it's out there. I'm glad that you're safe.
Which is
That's
worse,
what I was thinking
Michael?
about. I didn't want to say it.
All I gotta say, Michael, is if all of a sudden your text doesn't work right the next day, and there appears to be a break-in in your house, you
my
might
biggest problem.
You might want to take that back.
The two names that I have that are a problem with that would be Gavin Newsom because he is a governor, and AOC because she is in Congress. So those would probably be the ones that would get me in trouble for what I said. But but it wouldn't be as bad as the president, because the president is the president and in office. But it could be up there. Yeah, I could get in trouble for that one.
John, it's just going to be you and me next time. Michael and Charles are going to be incarcerated. Okay. Just you and me, John.
Oh, man.
Nothing to do with it.
just to catch John up, we were talking about free speech last week and the whole Comey thing. And I said you should be allowed to say I want to kill the president, and then I said it.
Oh boy. Well,
the very next day, like 10 o'clock in the morning, I'm in my car. and all the Wi-Fi in my car goes out. My phone goes out, and I'm like, okay, guys, I take it back. I said, I actually started saying that out loud.
Shank versus U.S., clear and present danger. The Supreme Court has spoken.
Wait, what is that?
Yeah.
Shank versus U.S., clear and present danger. The Supreme Court has spoken.
That protects our free speech?
Well, the thing is, you can't threaten someone because that's a clear and present danger.
Right.
You can't say you're going to harm someone because it's clear. It's
right.
Not like vague, like I might do something, but that's vague. It's a clear and present danger. It goes too close to the shank where you're not allowed to say anything that's a clear and present danger to someone else or provoking violence in any way. Yeah.
No,
I made it very clear that I was just using my free speech. So I think the Secret Service gave me a warning by shutting off my Wi-Fi in my car. They're like, listen, and my phone simultaneously, especially when I'm door dashing around town. I'm like, all right, guys, I need to make money. Get it back on. Turn it back on. Could have just been a coincidence.
Yeah, my feed goes dark. You know why?
We're still on the air tonight
during our broadcast.
Exactly. All right, John. So, what was the question? I already forgot.
The question was,
which
do you think the Democrats are going to take, and who would you like? Okay. Yeah. For the Democrats, sometimes it defies me who they take. Sometimes it isn't a choice that I'm in favor of, which puts me in a really bad spot. So I'm very picky on who I take. And sometimes people who are extremely popular as presidential candidates, I don't like them. And sometimes for the Republicans, I'll like them as a person and disagree with their policies. So that makes it kind of, But I think for this group, at least, I'm not sure who they take. But I think Josh Shapiro and Andy Bashir. And I met Andy Bashir, a governor of Kentucky. I met him last June for a few minutes. Very, very nice gentleman. And he seems very well spoken, very qualified. Josh Shapiro, I'd have to learn more on him, but he seems very well spoken, very well qualified.
Okay. All righty. I back right shortly after the election, the last presidential election, and Harris all along has not said she wouldn't run again, right up until very recently. The word was that Gavin Newsom wouldn't want to step on her toes and would not run for president. Has that changed? Has anybody heard that stance has changed and that he will no matter what? Like, it doesn't matter if she runs or not? Because it was, if she's going to run, he's not going to.
No, that was situational. He wasn't going to run because there wasn't enough time to put together a campaign. Plus, all of the money that was donated to the Biden-Harris ticket would have had to be refunded. That's
I'm
why
actually
Harris,
talking about after the election. After the election, there was still news that the Gavin Newsom would not run and step on another Californian's toes if she decided to run. So that's no longer the case.
I never heard that, and I wouldn't have believed it even if he said it. I mean, it may make people feel good because Kamala just lost. Why step on her face? And I think that would be why he would say it at that time. Oh, I don't want to. Why kick her while she's down? Because she has no hope. No. He's always been angling towards the presidency and pretty much towards the 2028 cycle. He's going for it. He don't care. She can't win. 5%. The first time she ran, she got 5% of Democrats that were supporting her at her peak for presidency, and they all dropped her. She's dead weight.
Yeah, she couldn't even rally.
Dems don't have anyone else. They just don't have anyone good.
They don't really have the strongest bench in the world. Now, first of all, Kamala Harris rallied the African American vote when she attacked Biden, and that quickly went away. She's just so uninspiring. But I would say that Pete Buttigieg is my favorite of the pack. I'm not saying that he would ever win, but he's my favorite of the pack, and the reason for that is I trust him to pick up that phone at 2 a.m. in the morning and do the right thing for the country. That classic line. I mean, I always go back to this. Let me explain this to you, okay? If you held a baby in your hands and a soothsayer came down and said, that child is going to be a mayor, a Rhodes Scholar, learn 7 languages, fight for the United States of America, and work for the United States government, you would say that child was a success. That child did good things for the U.S. That child is Pete Buttigieg. He's a decent man. Policy aside, he is a decent man. And I want a decent person to pick, especially a vet, to pick up the phone and be like, okay, here's what we're doing. We have Americans in trouble somewhere in the world. Here's what we're doing. I don't think anybody else, I don't know Ossoff. I know Shapiro just a very little bit, and Bashar. So those 3 I could not make that same statement on right now. But Newsom, Harris, Ocasio-Cortez, I wouldn't trust them with that at 2 a.m. Pete Buttigieg, out of this group, yes, he's the one I would trust because I know he's been there, but I know he's at least has some notion of what it means to defend the United States of America. I don't think the other ones that I know of do. And so I would lean towards him. Yeah, go ahead.
So you're talking about he is the strongest of the weak, and you're picking him out of sympathy and empathy, not because he's a good leader, not because he's strong. And I would cite, and even though he has accomplishments, no question, I'm not questioning whether he's a good person, whether he's a good dad or not. I'm not questioning that whatsoever. Those aren't the qualities that make a good president. Having the ability to convey being able to convey strength, to be able to make decisive decisions, and someone who doesn't screw up like East Palestine, Ohio, which he hopes most people will forget. I will not. He completely screwed that over, and those people will suffer because of his failures. And that was not the only failure he made while he was in the Biden administration. He is incapable of handling the top job. Not to say that he's not good at other things. He's been a decent mayor. He's capable of lower level actions, but once you get to cabinet and above, he is out of his league. He's underwater. So no, I don't see it.
Okay.
I think he's just incompetent at that level. Lower level, fine.
Yeah, I would agree with a lot of the way you phrase that, because I think he was miscast in transportation. Now, from his standpoint, you're going to take the job that's offered if it's that kind of a job for working for the federal government. But Biden, of the many things he messed up, this one might not be a very, very big one. But Pete Buttigieg speaks 7 languages. He should have been an ambassador for one of the countries of which he speaks that language. Because what would be more impressive than the leader or the representative of the leader of that country walking in and speaking to an American citizen who could speak the language? I mean, it would have just been so great, and that would have cast him into such a better light. Like, he came from a small town USA. Why is he the Department of Transportation? Now, I would take the job too if I was him, but it really was a miscast by Biden or the puppets that managed Biden. So I guess we can leave that there. We'll see who else becomes leaders as it goes along and come back to it. However, there's somebody who might be a leader, because Don Lemon, folks, simply will not stop talking about becoming, throwing his hat into the ring for president. Now, we spoke about this a few weeks ago. John, you weren't on that particular show, but to catch you up, Don Lemon, perhaps Don Lemon has been going around answering questions as to whether or not he's considering a run. We talked about it about 3 weeks ago. He was on a podcast. He's been on Pod Save America, and he said that he's considering it. And Tina Brown had some kind of gathering of star journalists in London, and they invited him. Debatable whether or not he's a star journalist. And he was asked at this event in London and whether or not he would run. And he just, continues to double down, as the saying goes. His quote's right here. And he said, "So do I ever think about running for office?" Lemon mused, "Yes." Could it happen? Yeah, it could happen. If the right opportunity presented itself. I know people are going to think I'm crazy. Well, he's got that right. This is going to be the headline, and people are going to laugh about it. I think I could be president of the United States. I definitely could run this country better than Donald Trump. Okay, well, I mean, you have right to that opinion. So, John, I'm going to ask you. I'm going to take this off screen. We don't need to see the quote the whole time. I'm going to ask you, what do you think of Don Lemon running for president?
Well, I think there's a long stretch for the presidency, because I used to watch his show, and he knew some issues, but whether he would make a good president or not, I would have to see more evidence. It's a long stretch to go from kind of running a CNN show, and it's your show, and kind of interviewing people, to being president. And he kind of says what his values kind of are. He kind of says where he kind of stands on some of the values. So you understand that. I don't know. He had some, when he left the show, there was some issues, I believe, was with his relationship with women, and that didn't go over well. Now, in his defense, you never know what's actually true or not, but it was enough that he left the show, and I didn't see much of a really great return, especially becoming president. But I would deem it very unlikely, and a lot of people do run on a lark. A lot of people do run, and they never really resonate. But he could run, but I wouldn't think he would possibly reach 5%. I don't think he would reach 5%, but people could all of a sudden rally around him, and who knows? But anything happens with presidencies.
Okay. So, Joe, has your mind changed on Don Lemon and his run? And remind the audience what exactly your take is on that.
I mean, he can run. I have zero interest in listening to him further. I used to listen to clips of his show because I would watch like Jon Stewart or something, and they would show clips of him, and he just didn't. I don't even know how he had a show. Honestly, to me, it was just like he plays superior to his audience and his guests, and I disagree with his positions, and just like he's not someone I would want to have a beer. You know, the question is like, who'd rather have a beer with? I have zero interest in having a beer with him in a bar. Like nothing. Like there's nothing I like about him at all, frankly. So he could run, but he doesn't come off as someone that I think will attract a lot of people that want to see him as president. Just don't see it.
So is this just a megalomaniac move on his part if he decides to do it, Michael? Or, let the audience know again where your stand is on Mr. Lemon running for president, possibly running for president.
It's not megalomania. It's a race hustle. And that's what he is. He's a race hustler. By the way, believe all women. I think that's a Democrat policy. You believe all women, and if you're accused, you're guilty. So according to Democrats, that's why he lost his CNN gig, and justifiably so.
Yeah.
Going by the Democrat policies that they put out there for everyone. Fine. I actually want him to run because he is a joke. He's a race hustler. He is an idiot, and he is there only to make money for himself. He is a nearly perfect Democrat running for president. Let him go in there. He won't get 1%. He won't raise any money. But you know what? It'll be a nice distraction. And by the way, I think that Pete Buttigieg, AOC, Newsom, and of course, definitely Kamala will love the reprieve of people laughing at him as long as he's on the stage. And it will take pressure off of them for being serious because they have no clue what they're doing and they have no plan for America besides vote Democrat, make sure Democrats have money and power. So, but I want him to run because I'll enjoy doing video after video laughing at him for being the race hustler that he is.
Mike needs content.
Huh?
Yes. You took the words right out of my mouth, Joe. So we need content. So
yes.
And the reason why he's brought up on the show is I don't believe in the hit and run. You know, we talked about that before. So Don Lemon, when he invaded that church in Minnesota, along with Georgia Foote, if I have her name right, I don't want to just say the story once and go. So I do check the news of the week before we go live to see what's going on with Mr. Lemon and also Afro Man, who hasn't done anything as far as libertarian. Oh, that reminds me, Joe, when is the National Convention for the Libertarian Party?
It's next week, I believe, the 21st through the 25th.
Okay.
The actual business starts on Friday and goes to maybe Monday. We might adjourn on Sunday, but it's scheduled to go to Monday.
Oh, wow.
Okay. So you're going to head up there, and what are you hoping to get out of it? Like, what can people expect who see you there, and what's like the general, like a local politician from Florida, such as yourself, local candidate from Florida, what could they get out of going to the national?
Maybe I hear, and this is actually my first national convention I'll be attending in person. The previous 8 of them, I think, I've watched on YouTube or C-SPAN, but this one's my first one in person. I've heard that candidates actually get some donations sometimes. Like if they introduce themselves, people like to just fellow libertarians. If they have money, they like to give libertarian candidates money. So I'm hoping I'll be wearing this shirt every day. So hopefully people are like, oh, I know Joe, and you're running for office. Here's $100. That'd be nice. That as far as me being selfish for my campaign, yes. As far as why I'm going, it's to elect new leadership. In 2024, the former leadership, and some of them have resigned since then, they invited our opponents to have campaign stops at our convention. Yeah. And I just thought that was unimaginable, frankly, because I can't imagine Democrats and Republicans hosting the Libertarian candidate at their convention. No way. Never going to happen. So I thought that was a bad, very bad decision made by the leadership of the Libertarian Party. And I decided then, the next convention, which is right now coming up, I'm going to vote against all the people that were in favor of helping to fundraise for our opponents and helping to get platform our opponents. That's not standing that. I want the Libertarian Party to be libertarian again. So that's why I'm going.
Okay.
Elect pro-libertarian leadership.
All righty. Well, that reminds me, Mike Tremont is going to be on the show shortly after he makes an announcement. Mike Tremont has a major announcement coming up that he wants to change how the Republican Party goes about electing their presidents. He says that in an email that I am on his email list, he said that for the better part of the last century, national campaigns have followed a similar script: centralized decision-making, carefully controlled messaging, and a selection process that asks voters to ratify choices already made behind closed doors. By background, Mike Tremont was the Libertarian vice presidential candidate, very big in the Libertarian Party. He moved over to the Republicans and works very hard within the Republican Liberty Caucus, trying to bring libertarian type ideas into the more libertarian type ideas into the Republican Party. He said that all that I just mentioned has eroded both accountability and trust in the party, and the model is breaking down. So he has a new model that he's going to announce at Freedom Fest, which is in July. So I reached out to him earlier today. I said, after you make this announcement in July, why don't you come on this show and we could discuss it further? And he said yes. So we're working on the date for that too. So stand by for that, as well as the debate with John and Monica. So we got a couple of fun things coming up. I just wanted to mention that while it was on my mind. All righty. Great stuff. Yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, there's also, Joe might not know, but there's supposed to be, can't say 100% guarantee, but there's supposed to be a Democrat running in his race. I met the gentleman on Saturday at an event at the Daytona Flea Market. And it depends on, I guess he has to, petitions, it's a little too late for petitions. So we would have to pay the fee. And so whether he can, whether the fee is going to be paid, but someone I had met just on Saturday, and he's supposed to run for District 28 as a Democrat. So,
do you know who it is? You remember the name?
I'll just leave it to if the person wants to announce. Yeah.
Oh, he hasn't announced yet. Okay.
They're supposed to have their papers up in Tallahassee right now, and it should come out on Division of Election site. If the person, and filing is easy. It's the $1,700, which Joe knows, or Joe and I have both gotten on petitions. And I hand it to Joe because I did it in the year it was easier. I don't know, about 2 elections ago. And I believe you did it last election. And I got to hand it to Joe for the stamina to get that many petitions. That is quite an effort. I did it once.
Yeah, I did it when it was hard. Yeah, I did it in 2018 when it was like 1,500 petitions, which I believe it's around that right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's over. You can't qualify by petition. I think as of today. I think today was the deadline.
Yeah, May 11th. Yeah, which is today. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's gone. So if they didn't file, that's forget about that. Yeah, they have to pay the fee. But yeah, and then in 2022, when it was easy, I ran for Congress. So I raised the bar up. I had to collect 3,000 signatures, raw signatures, to get like 2,600 verified. And then this last time I entered kind of late. And so I just paid the fee, and I'm going to do that again this time, just pay the qualifying fee. It takes a lot of time and effort to collect those petitions, for sure.
Oh, yeah. Can imagine. Yep. Absolutely. Well, I appreciate all three of you guys and your attempts to run. It's great that you're getting in the ring. And there is a guy who is thinking of challenging Juanita May, Daytona Beach commissioner, as well. He's the owner of Steve's Famous Diner. Folks know that down here. And he's thinking of throwing his hat into his ring. Cristo Marvonis is how you say his name. And he, too, has agreed to come on the show if he decides to run. I reached out to him. Last I saw, he had not made his announcement. So we're going to stick on the national level here, but kind of get away from the politics and get into epic fury. which is the name of the Iran-U.S. war. And what I would like to do is propose to all of you, the panel, this idea. Okay. And this is Mike, I'll have you go first on this one. So first, when you give the background, on February 28th, gas was $3 a gallon. The average during the war has been $4.45, which means it's gone up on average $1.45. So right or wrong, and this is the question, gas has to go down because Trump said gas is going to be super low. There'll be no nukes. All right, so gas has to go down the equal as to what it went up for this to be successful, and that would mean we'd be paying $1.55 per gallon. The Strait of Hormuz can't be controlled solely by Iran, and no nukes ever. If those three things happen, if those three things don't happen, let me put it that way, was this a waste of time? So, Michael, you go first.
It's an invalid question. The criteria that we need are far more than that, and we are achieving them. Yeah, there's a temporary spike in gas prices. Doesn't matter. That happens all the time. Prices go up, prices go down. They were under Biden-Harris. We had gasoline at $5 on a national average, which we still have not hit in over a month of this conflict. So, yeah, prices go up, prices go down. The price will come back down later. We have UAE, the United Arab Emirates, that have already taken our side. They're willing to work with us with prices lower than OPEC to export oil to the United States, plus our own production under President Trump is actually going to bring down the prices. They've been holding prices down globally, and it will, after this conflict, lower it even more. No, Iran can't be allowed to have a nuke, and we will get that. And that is essential to the safety and stability of the world. But we also have to get rid of the IRGC. We have to get rid of global terrorism, something that prior presidents, Obama and Biden, were funding. They were funding global terrorism that was killing not just Americans, but pretty much people from every country in the world. And that is something that's unacceptable. It's why every country in the world actually, except for maybe North Korea and China, but everyone else actually supports the United States in what we're doing and what the end goal is. So no, this won't be a waste if those things don't happen instantly. The question is the time frame. Are they going to happen immediately? Probably not all of them all at once. Gas took a while to get up. It's going to take a while to go back down. Getting rid of all of the global terrorism is not something that happens overnight, or reducing it. It doesn't happen overnight. It happens over time. And getting rid of the nukes. Now, that's one thing that we can't do overnight, because we still have to get the nuclear material that they have already enriched to 60%, and we have to get them to agree or either take it out or have them agree to hand it over so that they can't make dirty bombs. These things take time. Will we see an answer and get a resolution to all your questions plus more in the space of another year? Yes. Does that mean we're going to be fighting the entire time? No. Is that short term? Absolutely. Not short term in the memory of American citizens that only lasts 3 months. It's short term in how in the world, looking how long these conflicts tend to run, which is not endless, and we're not looking at 20 years, but a year to get everything on that list accomplished. The short term, I think it's going to be fantastic and fun, and I think we're going to easily get all of that.
Okay, so let me ask you this question, Mike, and of course, guys, we're going to go around, but let me ask you this question. What price does gas have to be at for you to think that this was worthwhile?
I don't care.
So Trump said gas is going to be super low. If it just went back to $3, you're okay with that?
I don't care. That's not the most important factor. That's not why we did this.
And how do you guarantee that? Well, it is. Trump said it was. How do you guarantee?
He said that was an additional benefit of doing this, but that's not why we did it.
Okay. How do you guarantee that they would never, Iran would never attempt to have nukes again? Like, sure, you can put it in writing and they could sign it, but what's the guarantee that they're going to adhere to that? Where's the trust but verify part of that? In other words, like, how do you make sure that they will not be enriching uranium for the sake of a bomb?
Well, how I would do it or how it's going to be done, two different things. How I
like
would do
both of those.
it is I would just destroy their facilities, and the moment that they try and rebuild any of them, I'd blow them up.
Right.
And that's how I would do it, but I'm a little more extreme than others. What they will do is make sure that they IAEA will be able to have full and complete access to all facilities, all military and other facilities throughout all of Iran, that they will give over all of their nuclear material, that we will see them we can observe them actually dismantling their centrifuges and all of their enriching factories, including those that are under the mountains, that they seal down those mountains. These would give us certain assurances to start with, in addition to the IAEA, which is the International Nuclear Agency checking on rogue nations making nuclear weapons. So that's how we would be able to know. And of course, we'd constantly observe them. And if we ever see that they try and do it again, well, then we come on by and drop the mother of all bombs a couple dozen times on their facilities, because I have no problem with that. I do not trust terrorists, and I do not want terrorists to have nuclear weapons at any cost.
Is the IAEA, I believe it's under the United Nations purview,
Yes,
correct?
It is.
So, and we will have a representative there. I would imagine that would be the case, right?
Yeah.
The trust but verify under Ronald Reagan. The idea was we, the United States of America, would go and verify that they were dismantling, and they would send people here to verify that we were dismantling, like the SALT II treaty and stuff like that. That it wasn't really the UN. So as long, because I don't trust the UN as far as I could throw them, as the saying goes. And I feel like the World Health Organization had the wool pulled over their eyes with COVID and the Wuhan virus and all that stuff. That IAEA would also have the wool pulled over their eyes when it comes to Iran, de-escalating their nukes. I'd much rather have just the U.S. checking or a very strong contingent of the U.S.,
It's the best that the world has at the moment, and it's the one authority that everyone agrees on, because many countries would not trust the United States by itself. So therefore, that's why that's just the one, not my best choice, but that's the choice of the world at the moment.
All right, Joe. So what do you think? Should gas be down to $1.55? Like, it has to go down as much as it went up, and obviously stay there. Sooner or later, it's going to start inching back up, inflation and whatnot. But this proposal here, otherwise, it's a waste of time. What are your thoughts?
I agree with Voss on the gas prices. It doesn't matter. It is what it is. It spikes up before for every presidential administration for various reasons, and it comes back down eventually. This is just another one of those times. It's going to come back down eventually. But to me, it's not even a metric at all to measure the success of this at all. Regarding the nukes and all that stuff, they're a sovereign government, whether we like them or not. They are a sovereign government, and our government doesn't have any more right to tell them you can't have a nuke any more than they could tell us we can't have a nuke. And we're the ones being hypocrites about it. They're not, if they told us that to us. And we would be laughing at them if they said to us, you can't have, like, our government can't have nukes. Rightfully so. And they should be laughing at us for doing that to them. And we should not be policing them. We should not be verifying them. And trust is not even an issue, because we shouldn't be demanding that of them in the first place. They're a sovereign country. They're allowed to have it just like we're allowed to have it.
So just to turn the screw on that, for the sake of conversation, just let me ask you this question. We're an empire. Why the hell should we care what anybody else thinks? If we want it, it should be done. What do you think of that line of thinking?
Well, Michael likes it, so I hate it.
Yes, I do.
I think that's pretty much the way the U.S. thinks. You don't think so?
Well, by the way, being an empire, having a government that acts as an empire, is that a good thing? It's not something we should be proud of.
Why not?
Empires in historic terms is generally perceived as being a negative thing, tyrannical, warmongering. I'm authoritarian. I'm not in favor of being an empire.
I think
And we are an
most of the
empire, by the way, I
American
agree.
I think most of the American citizens are uncomfortable with the fact that we actually are. I realize that we are. I wonder how long it's going to last. It's again, that's a topic for another day. Maybe we should have a topic on that, a whole show on that. But I think we are until we get to say what we want. But obviously, Joe, you're saying we shouldn't exercise that capability that we have to pretty much dictate to a country like Iran what goes on. So we should not exercise.
Capability is a good choice word because we don't have anything else. We don't have authority to do it.
Right,
We
it's
don't
not a
have,
right.
the right to do it. We
Right,
don't have jurisdiction. It's the capability. Yeah, we have the capability because we're gonna. If you don't do this thing, then Voss is gonna throw bombs on you. That's what's gonna happen.
One kind of cute way to say it is we don't have the right to do it, but we have the might to do it.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
That's true.
Yeah. All right, John. So the propositions, we'll start there. Should gas have to go down to $1.55 to make this and all the other things to make this a worthwhile endeavor? This war, epic fury.
I really think that it's hard to tell how this is going to go. And I think we're in this situation. And what we have to do is see where we can go from here. There is a situation where in the future, a lot of countries, possibly, I don't know the future for sure, but many countries will have nuclear weapons. And the thing is, if you do have someone who is a bad actor, then the international community can take action if you're a bad actor and you're committing terrorism and stuff like that. So you can defend yourself against a bad actor having nuclear weapons. Just in this situation, how much power do we need to use in order to either get regime change or be able to have inspectors on the sites? I get a feeling you would have to have regime change. And the problem is, too, then you get a new Iranian government, and they may or may not favor us. So we don't know what's going to come next. I don't have a crystal ball, and that's a danger, too. It's a lot of dangers. But you do have a situation in the future, I think, where a lot of countries are going to have nuclear weapons. They talk about more countries gaining nuclear weapons. And it'll be like any other kind of weapon, the machine gun, other stuff. It's different, but the machine gun, other stuff, and countries are just going to have nuclear weapons. And at what point is an international community going to be able to have some sort of defense for their own safety? But I'm not sure where this goes from here. I'm not sure if there's some strategy to get regime change and then get a new government, hope for the best. I've read interesting stuff. I don't know if Mike likes it or not, but the Council of Foreign Relations is a good source of more intellectual international politics because it's better than a lot of other sources. And so there are sources that are just not intellectual and not worth me reading. But they've come out, with information. Plus, I've heard it from other sources that with Khamenei, that he was a mid-level cleric, which means a lot in Iran. And he was not one of the high-level clerics like Ayatollah Khomeini. And so with him, he partnered with the IRGC, which was very discredited after the Iraq-Iran war. And so the IRGC is with Khamenei, and it's not as much a religious ideological theocracy thing as it is the power of the IRGC trying to stay in power. Because if you don't defeat the IRGC, you don't defeat Iran. And they will try as hard as they can to stay in power. Mm-hmm. And we have to, either figure out a means to get regime change, or if there is some kind of deal to be made. But I just don't see with the deal so far that we've had any success in trying to find a deal. Plus, we want Iran to say, sure, we won't have nuclear weapons and you can inspect our country. But it doesn't seem like they're going to agree to that. And we're not going to agree to say, sure, you can keep your nukes if you open the Strait of Hormuz. So it is a stalemate at this point. We'll have to see if the blockade is enough or other actions. But I have no idea where this is going to go and how this is going to look in a year or two.
Okay, well, Hal checks in. Thanks, Hal, for checking in. He says we are never going to see 155 gas again. That ship has long sailed. And doing double duty, Michael Voss says probably 255. Yeah, I mean, 255 would be good. I mean, I'd be on board. I'd be on board with that for sure. That would be good. I'm surprised that the gas part of that wasn't alluring to anyone as something that should happen.
And I took a picture the last day Joe Biden was in office, the gas station right next to my subdivision. It was 309 on January 19th, 2020. I guess it was, when Trump took over, 2025.
Yeah, the 19th. I think you're right about that.
January 19th, 2025. It was 309 right outside my development.
One of the lowest prices of the entire time Biden was in office, because almost entirely throughout that 4-year period, it was higher because we had 17.5% inflation, peaking at 22% in August of 2022, not including the 12.5% inflation on food. Gee, Biden was a failure.
But anyway, at the end of the Biden presidency, it was 2.7%.
Mike, isn't that a cumulative, that 17%? Isn't that, it wasn't
that
17%.
Is the aggregate. That's the aggregate.
They
per
did
year.
print a lot of money into the system during those years, for sure.
Yes. Well, so yes, they did. Both Trump and he did. Trump in his first term.
Right. It was, the impact of COVID. Just like from going from Bush to Obama, that financial recession basically was happening. They printed a lot of money at that time too, relatively.
It was a lot of bad economic plans, like cash for clunkers, which was a stupid idea and wound up costing us money. There were a lot of dumb policy decisions that were made, and they magnified. In fact, we see this often with many of the Democratic presidents. They will magnify a very bad economic situation and stretch it out longer than any economist would expect because of their bad decisions. We saw that with Obama, with the Great Recession. Remember the summer of recovery? Complete and abject failure. Then we saw Biden. He also extended the failure because of Bidenomics. His Build Back Better bill extended and increased the amount that was hyperinflationary and extended the length of the downturn. And then he tried to take credit for people going back to work because he was part and parcel one of the reasons why they couldn't work, and said, I created jobs. No, you didn't. That's a lie, bald-faced lie. And it was bad for the economy the way that he did that. So we see a lot of that. And those are just two examples of where we've seen it recently in history. We can go into Clinton. He's also done a lot of stupid ideas. Suffice to say, presidents can't stop a situation that's already been cooking. They can make it better or worse in terms of the depth of it and the extent of it, but they can't stop it. The subprime housing collapse was going to happen the minute that the Democrats in 1987 passed legislation forcing small banks to provide subprime loans to unqualified mortgage people seeking mortgages.
Right. And
the moment they did that, it was a ticking time clock to 30 years when that bubble would burst. It was just always going to happen. It was just, and who knew who was going to be president? Didn't matter. It was a time clock. 30 years, that bubble burst, and we saw what happened. No president could stop it. It's what can you do to mitigate the damage that's going to happen because stupid policies came in the past, and often from Democrats because they don't know how to do economics.
Two things on that. The Big Short's a great movie. I know a little cultural literacy. That was a fantastic movie. And I forgot the second one. What the heck was the other thing? You said
government out of it. That was the second one.
Now at the end of Clinton's presidency,
I
know had surpluses.
No, he didn't. That's a lie.
Hold on. The second thing was, before we lose the point, the second thing was Michael said that the government can't, the president can't stop certain things from happening. It always reminds me of, like, the president is a lot like a quarterback in the NFL. They get too much credit when things go right, and they get too much blame when things go wrong. They're like one part of the whole machine, just like the quarterback's only one part of the whole team. And they are, Mike, you're right. They can't stop everything, particularly the economy. The economy is something that the president gets way too much credit for when it's going well, and way too much grief when it's not. Just like you can't pin a loss entirely on the quarterback in most situations, of course, or a win entirely on the quarterback in most situations, of course.
John,
yeah, absolutely.
John, you mentioned something. I just want
okay, now go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Quick question on that. You do realize that Clinton cooked the books. He started counting unrealized gains from the market bubble that he did nothing about and allowed to burst, after he passed it on to Bush G.W. Bush, so that it would explode, according to Greenspan, for multiple years. You do realize he cooked the books. That's why for 1 year and only 1 year, only for one quarter, that we actually showed a balanced budget. And instantly, then the very next year, we went back to the same trend and the same losses instantly. It's because he cooked the books. You do know that.
But it does seem like the economy was moving very, very well. It wasn't great for me. I was a grocery clerk, remember? So for me, the economy was terrible for my personal life. But for many people in the country, fortunately for them, it seemed like the unemployment rate was very low. The inflation rate was very low. And the economy was very, very strong in the late 90s. It didn't get down to the working people like me, but it was very good for a lot of people in our economy. And then we had a lot of spending with the war. And I wasn't totally against the war, but we did have a lot of spending with the war. And it seemed like we're on a good economic track at the late 90s.
No, you talk about the air war in Syria? Hold on, you talk about the air war in Syria? Is that the war you mean?
No. The Afghanistan and Iraq. Now we got hit.
Under Bush.
It was a lot. I mean,
I thought you were still talking Clinton.
It was circumstance where with Afghanistan, it was hard to avoid going after bin Laden and stuff like that.
Yeah, you have to do that.
But it seemed like a good economy then. I can't see how you could say it was a terrible economy in the late 90s.
No, it was because there was a bubble. It was an artificial increase.
Well, the .com, it was a bit of a bubble too.
Yes, and that was artificially increasing in value.
It seemed like we're without the bubble even. I think we're in a good direction.
Okay, that actually goes back to what I said before about getting too much credit. He just happened to be the president when .coms exploded. That could have been anybody.
You do get lucky. You do get lucky.
Yeah, I mean, you get lucky sometimes. So, just going around the horn here, we did talk about Joe going to Grand Rapids for the Libertarian Party convention. Mike, what's going on with your world with your show? You're going to have a Wednesday evening show this week?
Well, probably because hantavirus supposedly is the next pandemic or double pandemic, or people are freaking out. So certain people are trying to impact when I say certain people, I mean Kathy Hochul, governor of New York, is now starting the process to panic people about this virus, even though it's isolated on a ship and it is not a pandemic, and no one should believe anything. And I know there's people on X right now that are saying, oh my God, it's a double pandemic and you got to wear a mask and all. Not real, not true. Don't panic. Least of all because of one ship that has been isolated and quarantined. It's not that big a deal. But yet,
I agree.
The politicians taking advantage of the fear, and I think they're going to use that. I definitely believe Hochul will use it to try and get an advantage in the governor's race in 2026, which is disgusting.
Yeah, I agree. It's not a big deal, but we should have brought it up, and I was you kind of wrong
Oh no,
about
I'm
that.
going to talk about it on Wednesday.
I pre-meeting, I was like, we probably shouldn't even talk about it. But then as soon as we hit the air, I was like, I guess we probably should. So I'm glad you brought it up. I have to do better at that. I made a mistake on that. But yeah, as far as like, it's one vote. I agree. It's not, the news media blows it up because mainstream media, that stuff excites people. I guess that's why they do it. It doesn't excite me. I haven't read a single word about it. I feel bad for the people on that ship. It's not going to stop me from going on a cruise. And oh well, you had some bad luck. All right, life goes on. But yeah, if people are going to use it to a disadvantage, that's not right either. I agree. Hal checks in. He says the surplus, this is going back to Clinton, lasted a lot more than 1 quarter. Come on, man. I have to look that up to know for sure. So, John, what's going on with you? John, you know what I want to ask you? Oh, there it is. John, there. You got your signs. Daytona Beach City Commissioner Zone 1.
There's one on my lawn.
Alrighty. Love it.
Yeah,
so I got a question for you. Quick.
Yeah.
And there's Joe's sign. Joe Hannoush.
Yeah.
For representative.
It's battle of the
All right.
signs.
All right. Quick. And then wait, we got this. We got this. It's not actually a sign, but we got this from Mike. He is the host of No Soundbites Allowed.
Yeah. I don't have a sign. I'm not running for it.
Used to. You ran for Binghamton County Council?
Yeah. New York 22nd District back in the day, 2014.
Yeah. All right. So, Joe, you're going to be doing some sign waving this coming week?
I don't have anything planned. No, it might happen. I actually have a lot of these type of things coming up. I was actually invited to do a panel discussion tonight, which I turned down because I have a standing invitation here. But I was on Thursday night at another podcast doing a candidate interview. I am going to be on, I think, either Wednesday or Friday. I forget. But yeah, I got some of these basically going on, but no sign waving now.
Very good. How about you, John? You going to be out there sign waving? We're going to see you on Nova Road?
Well, possibly. I have my signs and I have my people, and I've been out and I've been planning this run, running for office since I was 18 years old. A lot of people say, oh, I just decided this race, but I'll be honest. I decided at 18 years old that I wanted to run for office. Apparently my children knew that somehow during their childhood. I might have mentioned it when they were babies and stuff. And so it's been a lifelong wish that I could serve my community in elective office. And I actually was at the second floor of the Winn-Dixie it was a Winn-Dixie in Holly Hill. And I was getting my certification for grocery training. And I said, my plan was I was going to become a school teacher for many, many years and then eventually run for public office. And I said that when I was 24 years old. And at 59, 58, I finally ran the time before I ran against Joe. And so that was my plan and my lifetime plan. I've carried it out. I don't know if many people do that and don't lose it over the decades, but I learned how to campaign. I went to college. I got a job as a teacher so I could learn about politics in my job. It was all a plan for me to be in the best spot for elective office. So I only got my job as a teacher, to do public service, and to help me get elected instead of I want to get elected because I became a teacher. So it's all part of the plan, and it's been in place since 1983 during the Reagan.
Cool. A couple of things. Number one, I didn't work out my plan because I couldn't hit a curveball, so I couldn't be the center fielder of the Cardinals, and I never became a rock star. In fact, at one point in my life, I wanted to be an alcoholic rock star. And I got the alcohol part down pretty well. So I wanted to live the rock star life, I wanted to, the alcohol part.
I'm going to black you out tomorrow.
I'm good with wine, that's for sure. Hal checks in and he said he wants you guys to send signs to him. He's going to put them in his yard and watch the votes roll in.
Thanks. Yeah.
All right. Thanks. So I do got one quick policy question. I'm going to do an elevator summary of this so folks across the nation and around the world know. The Daytona Beach is sinking. It is an absolute mess. And this is the the commission that John wants to join. It's an absolute mess. Misappropriation of funds, subpoenas from the state coming down left and right. The fire chief probably should just retire at this point. There's so much mystery as to where money has gone under his watch. It's just blowing up all over the place with the misspending. But the city manager had his contract renewed, even though it's all his responsibility to make sure. His name is Derek C. Fiecher. He's a very nice guy. However, I think he's in over his head, and everything is just spun out of control under his watch. Yet he gets a 3-year contract, making more money than the governor of New York, mind you. And he's in Daytona Beach, and he makes more money than the governor of New York. Even if he made less, it's still a horror show there. But it just kind of salt in the wounds that he's making that much money. Some people say he's approaching 400. I know it's in the low 3s for sure. They're probably throwing in the benefits along with that. So that's a quick synopsis. If John was on the commission, he would have had a vote as to whether or not to renew. So I'm wondering, John, would you have renewed Derek Fiecher for another 3 years?
I think I would have had to research it a bit more. I think that there were issues that went back before him. And yes, my father was a city official many years ago, 20 years ago, and he was a city official for 30 years. And he said back in 2006, they did have a someone who kept the books, and you had to go through him and or a purchasing agent. They had a purchasing agent in 2006, and you had to go through the purchasing office in order to buy anything. And for some reason, they didn't have the purchasing office after 2006. And so that could have prevented all of these problems. And it's very likely that the city manager had inherited the situation, and that he could have inherited it. And so this could have been going on since 2006, possibly, but I don't know. See, that part I don't know, but I do know they had a purchasing agent in 2006, and you had to put a purchase order in order to buy anything, and then it was canceled.
So there's a little bit more control. I have to say, I will push back on that just a little bit. The city manager, Derek C. Fiecher, has been in office for almost 6 years now, and the fact that the policies haven't changed since in decades, some is going purchasing policy go back to the 1990s. That's his fault. And that's why I did sign the petition to have him removed from office, even though I like him personally. He is the man in charge. And for 5 years, he knew those policies were outdated. And if you have outdated policies, your direct reports cannot figure out how the heck to spend the money, that falls on you. And Derek should have been canned. The commission was wrong, in my opinion. They voted 4-3 to keep him. Actually, Monica Paris, who will be debating John on the show, voted to remove him, and we'll leave it there because everybody did Daytona Beach. Oh, you know what? I just want to add one more thing. For all the folks who are local here, and they keep on saying, I want change, I want change. Well, this man right here would be change if you voted for him, right? That's number one. Number two, that I told you the guy from the owner of Steve's Famous Diner right on Beachside is thinking of running. That's two people that are looking for change. And the third person that's looking for change is John Counts. He's a libertarian, and he's running as well for Daytona Beach City Council. And I hope to get him on the show. But there are three people right there, two definite and probably a third. So if you want change, you got people to vote for. So don't sit there and say, I want change, and then go vote for the same people. I'm sorry, Monica. I know I'm saying that, and I like you too. But that's the truth. These people are whining like crazy about what's going on at City Commission. You vote the same people in, it's going to happen again, especially Paula Reed should not be allowed to sit on that dais because she blatantly said she doesn't care about the service agreement for the city manager. She doesn't need to write one up, and she'll just use his evaluation of himself to decide whether or not he's a good city manager. And that's bullshit, and I called around on it 3 or 4 times already, and I'll call around on it forever. Sorry, that's not the way the game gets played, and somebody should run against her. I've said it like 3 shows in a row. It pisses me off to no end to have a politician sit there and say the rules don't apply to him.
And there's one more candidate, Charles.
Yes.
Steve Miller is running against Juanita May. He's filed.
Oh, did he announce?
He's officially in.
Oh, okay, because I saw him like
So
2 weeks
Steve
ago. I
Miller's
haven't
an
announced
official
anything
candidate.
yet. Yeah,
Yeah.
I actually reported that in the hometown news about 2
Yeah.
months ago that he was going to run against her. But then when I saw him, he was like, "I didn't announce anything yet." But he had told me, and he didn't say it was off the record. He told me on the conversation, "I'm going against her." So Juanita May has two because that's who John Counts is running against.
No,
right?
no. John Counts is running for Danette Henry's seat.
Danette
So far, Danette Henry is not filed. So I can give you like facts. I don't know her intention. I don't know her well, but she has not filed to run for re-election. Danette Henry is not filed. And I can check the supervisor election site, and it gives me all this information. So John Counts is running, and he's the only person running for that seat for Danette Henry.
So there's somebody else is running for Juanita May besides Chris, Steve.
Steve Miller. Steve. No, not unless I'm very mistaken. So far, no. They're the only.
We'll look it up.
Yeah, unless somebody's thinking about it, like the person you knew of with the diner and stuff, that I did not know that information.
Oh, I don't know what district he's in. Maybe that's what I'm thinking of. Yeah, we'll straighten it out as time goes by. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, but there are people out there to vote, for change. And so term limits are good for everybody. Yes, Michael, term limits for everybody.
Joe, I know you like that one.
Oh yeah, term limits for all.
Joe, you like that, don't you? Okay.
I do like term limits. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. All right, folks, we're gonna leave it there. I appreciate all you guys coming on as always. I know, Joe, I appreciate that you could have been somewhere else tonight and you came here. It really means a lot to me. Thanks so much. And thanks, Mike. I accidentally left you off the original email, but it was a bum link anyway. I had to send it out again anyway. So I'm sorry about that. And John, good to see you.
Yeah.
I don't know about next week. That's Memorial Day, right? Next week?
No. Next week I have a meeting, and then the week after is Memorial Day, and it's up to you if you can have the show or not that night.
Yeah. I don't know if we have plans. So we'll see. Maybe we'll see what we can do about that. I don't know right yet. So, all right, folks. Thanks so much for coming on. And thanks, Hal, for your comments, and everybody else for out there who watches around the world. I don't know where in the world you are.
Balloons.
Yeah, those balloons are back. I love it.
Yeah, I love it.
And fireworks.
He's got the whole thing figured out now.
Yeah,
he's got all this.
Nothing like that.
Those are only two I know.
Cool. All right. Well, I hope you had a good time, folks. This time, until next time, we will see you later.